Good evening. You're with Sweetie Berry and Christian Smith, and this is Between Us Girls, a part of the Women of Dare Whimsy. Tonight we're discussing how it is for gifted women and creatives to handle everyone asking to be a part of their team or to encourage you to use your gifts on every project that goes by. And how do we create margin in our life? Kristen, so glad to be here tonight with
Hi,
you.
everyone.
Won't you introduce yourself a little bit? And I'll tell you a little bit about her before she does, because I know she won't tell you the good parts. The good parts are that Kristen Smith wrote a book called Bring Pretty Back. Bring Pretty Back is small steps to identify where you may have lost your pretty. Actionable steps that make your life work again. Because you see, she has quite the tale to tell about losing her pretty. And she wrote this book as she rediscovered how to bring pretty back into her own life.
Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Kristen Schmidt, and I wrote a book called Bring Pretty Back when I lost the pretty in my life. And I knew that I needed to bring it back to be happy and healthy. And I'm a work in progress, but I wrote the book, and it is, like she said, small action steps and doable things that you can do every day to bring pretty back into your life.
You know, it's so important that you take the first action. And as gifted women, one of the things we don't do a lot of the time is take the first step because we want to do it perfectly the first time out. And perfectionism is such a handicap. And part of what we try to eradicate at Dare Whimsy is the need to know everything and to be perfect the first time out. In fact, the very name Dare Whimsy means to dare to be imperfect, to dare to be who you are, to dare to learn something new, to dare to play. We want you to be whimsical in your living. We want you to think and dream and hope and decide what your dreams are and dare to do them, even if imperfect. You know, the Nestor taught us long ago that it doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful. But more important than that, you don't need to be good at everything. You can be a beginner. You can be just downright bad at things and still enjoy it. And gifted women very often take on the role that if it can be learned, I can learn it. If it can be learned, I can excel at it. And if I can learn and excel at it, I have to do it. Well, you know what? Good learners don't have to do everything, and you don't have to learn everything that's out there to have fun. So I want you to know that part of our hope for tonight's conversation about creating margin in your life is to give you tools and understanding of how to say no to things that you need to say no to, how to preserve your mental health, your financial health, your physical health, your social health, and your solitude health. Because, you know, if you're just going all the time, there's just not a way to keep going. You've got to have time to learn and take in and to really stop and say, what does this feel like? Am I even enjoying this anymore? Or am I just doing it because I'm doing it? Kristen, can you share with us how it is that you, because I know as the author of Bring Pretty Back and all the fun events you put on, she puts on amazing events as an author. She comes to your town and she'll gather 50, 75, 150 women. And I've never raucously laughed so much in my life personally. And I am not easy to make laugh. As I can tell you that she gets invitations from every city around her and every city around me. And that's in Alabama, all the way from Michigan. So how do you handle when you've got so many invitations to everybody's club, everybody's organization, and you want to do them all because we love to have fun, but you just can't?
Well, I think I do first is I look and I see if it really speaks to me. And some people, it just feels right. And then there are some that I just know that it doesn't work either in my schedule or in where I live and where they live. Like I'm in Alabama right now, I live in Michigan, but this worked for me perfectly and I love being here. I think that what we can do is we can just kind of start and just decide what you like to do and then just start writing them down and contacting people, and it just seems like it always works out.
You know, you said something that matters. You wrote it down.
I wrote
one of the things that I teach as a strategist, because my job and my most important schedule part of my job is I have to decide how many hours I'm working, how many hours I'm volunteering, how many hours I'm taking for personal care, and how many hours I'm working on new projects. Because I personally love what I do. I love the people I work with. I love the projects that we create. And the problem with that is if I'm not careful, I can spend 100 hours a week doing what I love. And that's too many if I'm going to be a wife and a mom and a stepmom and a friend. And most of all, if I'm going to love me. Because taking care of yourself requires time. I see Ashley Alico has joined us. I'm so excited to see her. She is an artist from Hemet, California, and you're going to love knowing her too. Let me pop her in and say if she's ready to say hi. Now, Ashley is way away in California, and it may be that we're not going to be able to see her face tonight. I'm just not sure, but she'll be speaking to us no matter what. Oh, I see her coming up now. Hi, Ashley. I'm going to pop you in place. You need to unmute yourself. Hello, Ashley. Can you hear us?
Hi, Ashley.
Can you hear us? Okay, Ashley's having some technical problems, so we'll wait till we can bop in and she can unmute herself because I can hear that she's muted and we're not being able to hear her. So I'm going to pass it right back to Kristen because she has a question for you and a shared experience of you of how often do you take time for yourself during the day and each week. So I'm going to pop it to Kristen to answer the question, how often do you take time for yourself and how often each day and how do you take time for yourself to create margin in your life?
Okay. I start every day in the morning quiet, and I have either a tea or coffee, and I start the morning and I just relax and I meditate, I pray, and I think about what I want to do for the day and what will bring me closer to what I need to do. And then I go through my day, and I always in the evening I will also do kind of the same thing to wind down. And one thing that you said was to write things down. I'll write down things that I want to do, and in the evening, if there's something I just have missed, I can get that done just so I can relax and enjoy the evening without that on my mind.
You know, I just think it's so important to do self-care. You know, in the Gifted Children program, when I was a teacher and facilitator for many, many years, one of the things we saw that stressed gifted girls the most was scheduling. You see, there's something about if you can, you should, and we can do everything. So girls, really, whether you're 5 or 95, I want you to hear, sweetie, today, and I want you to hear me say it clearly. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you love it doesn't mean you have time for it. You have to have seasons of life, and you have to have choices. You know, I had 4 children, and Kristen, there were times that they wanted to play every sport out there. They wanted to be a member of our church choir and our church things and our church youth group. They wanted to play 3 sports. They wanted to take piano lessons, gymnastics, and on the Saturdays they wanted to do volunteer work. Well, you know, that's not healthy for a little child. A little child needs to go to bed at the right time. They need 10 to 12 hours of sleep. We all need 8 hours sleep. A little child, whether you're 5 or 18, needs time to process school. You need time to entertain yourself. You need time to grow your spirit. You need time to quietly read a book or listen to a book. If you have dyslexia like my child, you listen to a book. You need time to process and grow and to think through how you're growing. And if you're playing 5 sports, 2 volunteer organizations, 2 jobs, a part-time thing, and watching family night, you're stressed just from keeping up with it. Do you know, in business as a strategist, the first thing I teach my clients is, if you're a mompreneur or you're a dad in business, you truly only have about 24 hours a week to work your business. You know what? Statistically, I have learned 20 years of doing this, those who are working more hours than that are making less money than if they optimize what they do to take hours and take more time to play. Can you imagine it pays to play, Kristen? It pays to play.
It does.
We're good at that, aren't we?
We are good.
We are good.
We did that today.
We're in Arkansas, and we are visiting, and we're doing some really hard work on a project. It's so exciting for you, Dare Whimsy. Let me tell you, Kristen and I learned the golden rule. You have to play. We have to play. And it's very important that you do. You know, we worked with an artist today, and he makes the most magnificent things. He paints, he makes magnificent music, and oh my gosh, y'all, his decor, he's a designer, and he's self-taught, and he's just amazing. But you know what? You have to play. And one of the things that he does is, the reason he does so many different things is he gets bored easily. How many of you, raise your hand, raise your right hand if you get bored easily? That's one of our gifted markers, isn't it? We like lots of channels, and we like to do something well, and then we like to do something else we've never done well again. We get bored really easily, and that's one of the problems that we face as gifted people about creating margin. How many of you have started something and went maniacally crazy with it until you mastered it? And when you mastered it, you were done with it. Now, Kristen couldn't sing right, but I happen to know that she owned a candle company, that she went maniacally to the top, financial and everything else. And then what did you do?
Sold it quickly.
And why
I
did you sell
sold
it
it.
quickly?
I sold it quickly because just like you said, I took it high to the top. I did it quickly. I got bored. I sold it, and I didn't even put any thought into selling it. I just woke up one day and literally said, I'm going to sell the candle company today, and I did. So it was very, very quick, and it wasn't thought through. But I did that because I got bored with it.
You know, so many times gifted girls think all or
Or
nothing, nothing in between.
Mm-mm.
But margin, time to rest, time to think, time to realign what's working in your life, time to consider, is that person using me? Or am I using that person because it feels good? Better look at my motives. That only happens when margin's in your life. You know, one week when I had little children at home, we had 4 children at home, and they would bring 4 friends to church. So I had 8 people in the van going to church. Now, that was a whole story in itself. But one of the things I had to learn was if I didn't create the margin to stop and pick up the van before we went, and it's the way home to stop and get ice cream, and then on the way from that, stop again to put margin to clean it up. It was a smelly mess by the next morning. How many of us are living a smelly mess when we get over busy without enough margin?
Oh.
I see Dr. Edith Johnson just came, Johnston with a T, Johnston, and she is an expert on missing and action gifted kids and multi-intelligence gifted kids, and I would love to introduce you to her. Let me pop her into the big screen, and she's going to unmute herself and ready to go. Welcome, Edith. We're so glad to see you.
Hi, Edith.
Well, thanks. It's good to see you and good.
Here she is. Coming up.
And I caught
There
part
she
of the
is.
conversation.
Good evening, Edith.
Hi, Edith.
Yes.
Not hearing you.
Can you hear me?
Check your
Are you
muting and
muted?
see if you're muted.
Muting.
You know, it's our night for technical
It
difficulties.
is.
Apparently we need you. Apparently we're here. We have a captured audience that no one can talk back to us. This may be better. This may be better than we ever.
It says I'm
Edith
unmuted
is in
and talking.
Colorado. I'm still not hearing you, Edith. She's in Colorado, and she works with missing in action able adults. In other words, people who have really strong abilities, but for whatever reason they've gone underground and they're not living up to their potential. She truly helps people do things to change the parameters of how they function, and she has incredible books and incredible classes. I love to take you to her site. It's called howtoinlife.com, and I'm going to pop back in and find out why this isn't going. But until then, I'm going to keep talking and let Kristen talk for just a minute.
You know, back to when we were talking about the margins, and when she said that we should stop and think, and I was not doing that.
So we gotta go down to Golden Village
for me because I sold it so
on the 7th
quickly that I really didn't
for the show.
I really didn't do it
I want to see your dogs.
properly. But
And you
now
haven't
that I've
seen her
learned
dogs.
to stop, think before I react, and it
So I
really
told her I was
makes a
bringing
huge
Mary
difference.
Kay.
It really made a
There's
huge
another
difference.
doll maker and crafter.
Now moving forward, I realize that is a struggle that I have, and I really need to have margin in my life at all times, and it makes it just complete. It's life changing when you really start to take care of yourself.
Oh, I think that's such an important word. Ashley, I think I have your volume check. Would you do a sound check for me quickly?
Can I do it? Oh, that's Ashley. This is Edith.
Ashley, would you speak or make a sound?
Hello?
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, can you hear me?
Gosh, you know what? The Hangout is just not allowing other
No.
people tonight.
It's just us.
You all have green lights. So I apologize, but this is a technical difficulty that's happening within Google Plus because we've just not had this issue. This morning we had all 7 of us chattering, and we know that it was there. Edith and Ashley can hear each other, but we can't hear them.
We can't hear them.
So we're going to assume that the audience can, and we're going to let you speak a moment. Let me double check everything we've got here and make sure there's nothing that shows me. We're showing full wave bandwidth. We're showing everybody's stuff happening. We're just not hearing either one of you. But you can hear each other. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. It's us. So it's just us.
All right, Edith, I'm going to pop you in then and let you introduce yourself.
Okay. I'm Edith Johnston, and I work with high ability individuals that are missing in action, and that means that they have this sneaky feeling that they don't fit in. They're really smart. There's some frustrations with not understanding who and what they want to do. They're kind of sensitive. They have lots of ideas. They want to get things done, and yet they seem not to be moving forward. So the whole idea that when I work with them is to be able to help them understand themselves, be able to overcome the different kinds of messages they've had, be able to develop their skills, abilities, and then be able to move forward with expressing their gifts and connect with other people that are high abilities and with the people in general, so that they can fully express their gifts of who they are and feel comfortable with that.
Oh, that's important.
It's so important, and I'm so glad you're able to share with us. One of the things I really value about your workshops and about the play situations you do for us is that you really give us the science as well as the methodology of why this matters and why we need to make sure that we're seeing it from a different perspective than the one we're currently in. You know, when you're looking out a window, you see one view, but when you go to the second floor, you see a different view, and it's not quite so personalized as the first floor level. And having someone who's worked with many gifted people help you roadmap what's going on with you and what's going on with others, and to give you tools to use with it, that's just vital. I love your workshops. I love the things that you have to say that help us understand better how to be gifted women. Thanks so much for that. Ashley, I'm going to pop you into play, and I think everybody's speaking well now so we can hear you.
Hi, Ashley.
Ashley is an artist in California. She's in Hemet, California. She just taught a 5-hour workshop this week that we're so excited about, because people wanted to come and join them before it's even over. They'd sign up for more. Ashley, how do you create margin in your very busy life? Because you have personal clients, you have class clients, you have caretaking of your mom. How do you take care of yourself?
Very carefully. You know, I have to keep getting the thinker out of the way and just really be present in the moment. That's the most important thing. And I don't know if this will make sense, but almost everything, almost the whole day is a prayer or a meditation of some sort, so that I can remember. I write down little index cards so that if I feel blue in the moment, I can look at that index card and find empowerment again. It's such a habit to be in the doldrums, and I don't want to stay there. So if I want to thrive, I continually collect tools, emotional tools, that help me navigate the day.
So important, Ashley, because you know, sometimes life serves up things that are not much like lemonade. You know, last year we had a year of dying at my house. Literally, my father died, my stepsister died, I had 6 aunts and uncles who died in a 10-month period. It just felt like the season of locust had come, and I couldn't get up off my knees before the next thing hit. And you know, during those times, you've got to surround yourself with what feeds you to create margin in your life. For me, it's beauty. I love pretty things, and so I may have like a magazine, or I may have something simple, even in a hospital, that I can look at and find margin when I'm stressed or when things are just not going well. For me personally, I don't work on Fridays at all for anybody, hardly ever. Every now and then, if there's an emergency, I might do something for fun that I enjoy doing for a client. But Fridays are my margin, because I'm involved with authors and speakers and people who are always doing events. I'm often at events on the weekends, and so if I'm going to have a day off, it's going to have to be Friday or Monday between traveling. And so I take the margin to say that not even my husband gets my Friday mornings. I go to the park, or I go to the zoo, or I feel like I live in the zoo some days, but I go to the museums. I go find beauty, or I go create beauty. I do things that make my heart happy, and that solitude time You know, my clients, they're so sweet. They fly in sometimes to spend Fridays with me doing something fun because it's a time where I really do deep introspection and I take time to get really quiet in my spirit. For those of you who know me well, quiet is not one of the languages I speak. And so they come in, I think, to see if I'm okay because I'm so quiet on Fridays while I'm painting or doing calligraphy or making stamps or sewing because they're not sure what sweetie that is. The one they have is high drive and she's going hyperactive and they come in and visit me in person and we're just on slow for the day. Sometimes I think they're checking to see if I have a pulse. But Kristen's kind of the same way. She has certain hours that she does and certain hours that she doesn't to create margin. Ashley is like the best in the world at creating margin in a tight schedule because she'll say, do we have 5 minutes to work side by side? Let's do some buddy work because she has details she has to finish, but she really recognizes the value of building margin with someone you like to give you reflection and feedback. And so she'll call and say, let's do some buddy work, even if it's just 5 minutes, and we're both re-energized for the day. I would love for Edith to plug back in. Dr. Edith knows some realities for what happens as the warning signs when you're not getting enough margin. Dr. Edith, when you're not getting enough margin, what have your clients shown you to be some of the clues that we need to pay attention to?
Well, one of the things we need to look for is that not being able to think straight, not being able to keep your energy up, or having too much energy, because the imbalance can go either extreme. You're also looking at the fact that all the creativity seems to be running together, and so to be able to sort it out and actually translate it into an expression becomes really, really difficult. Or the mood and the ability to be able to desire to express. So you withdraw, you can go on your own, and not as an introvert, but as a time that you're just overwhelmed and can't deal with anything like that. It also, the natural characteristics that we have of being sensitive become even more sensitive, become hypersensitive, which sounds kind of really silly for us to say that, but it's at the point then that it's harm for ourselves. Our bodies will respond to them, and so that we will have not only low energy, but we can actually get into different kinds of pains, and we don't understand why the body's not functioning, and it has to do with us not having taken those margins, not having to take that nap, not having the right food, not having the ability to say no, having scheduled things that are pleasurable to us versus the things that, well, we know we can do them, and yet it's not really where our heart's at. And so all those things are important for us to have margins, and it's also important for us to recognize when our energy levels, our bodies change, and our creativity levels change. Because those are signs that we're not putting the margins in so we can have balance and move forward with our exciting abilities.
You know, I absolutely want to say amen to that whole corner because part of working with gifted girls, whether they're 5 to 95, is recognizing what I call the power surges, because we get hyper excited a lot of the time about things we're doing. Some people manifest that like I do, and I have hyperactivity, and that's just my normal. And so I've got to make sure I get enough exercise, enough exertion, enough caffeine so that I can slow down and think through well. But there becomes a time if I'm not really paying attention to time management, if I'm not really blocking how many hours I can work, because I'm happy and exuberant working, I can work 100 hours straight until my body's physically exhausted and I can't go anymore. You know, the drop-off from that is you get sick, you have created more work than you can possibly manage by yourself unless you're a really good team builder. Boy, you're in a doghouse at that point, and you've successfully put yourself there. Because when we are creating, much like a painter painted, where they might could do another layer and another layer, we're going deeper and deeper, and because we think well, we start doing more than one human can handle. And you know, if you don't manage that time and micromanage yourself in the space of saying, should I be doing that? Or should somebody else who can do that more effectively do that, where I can do only what I can do? Boy, does that get a mess. Some of you hear my voice tonight. It's froggy because For this project, we're getting ready for a vertical in Nashville this weekend, and I have 14,000 women coming for a big corporate event. And I've been running nights and days on Dare Whimsy, days with my clients, and nights getting ready for that project. 14-hour days catch up with you. They really, truly do. And you get unhealthy. Your body starts breaking down. And I've called in reinforcements. I had 10 people here this weekend, and it was still very hard to get it all done because big thinkers create big messes. And it's okay. It's a lot easier if you do it in modules, one step at a time, so that no one has to stress out.
Yes, you described me right there before I sold my candle company. What Dr. Edith said, she was talking about me. So that I was, you were describing me to a T. So I understand that completely. I thought, oh my gosh, she knows me. So yes, that was me, and you're right. It really, you really have to recognize that, slow down, and start making some changes. Otherwise, you really get in trouble.
You know, personally, one of the telltale signs I work as a strategist for really strong thinkers. In fact, we talk about that I handle the messy parts of their brilliance. And that means that I help them remember who they are again. Because gifted thinkers so often get busy producing perfection that they perfectly ignore their needs. And we just can't ignore our personal needs and have margin in our life. You know, the very idea of margin is to create a boundary, a bowling alley, so that there's a gutter on either side of you that protects that ball from jumping to the next lane and the next lane and the next lane. So part of that margin may be more time between projects. Part of that margin may be a rest break between your next activity. Sometimes that margin means it's not a season for this. Maybe I had a lot of deaths to deal with last year, a lot of estates that had to be closed. So maybe it's not a time to build a new house. Maybe it's not time to move cross country and start a new job because we already had a lot of stress in our life as a mom, a stepmom, a wife, and a mom. And mom's 3 times, you hear me? There's a lot of kids in my house. By the time I do my work and I completely work with my staff, there just isn't margin for another big activity. How many of you, raise your thumbs up, have overdone yourself by pushing yourself further than your mind and body should go? Everyone in the room. Everyone in the room. It's a common thing. You know, I was with kindergartners 2 weeks ago, just profoundly gifted kids in Alabama. They're in a classroom together for after school, and they bring them in from all over the city. And you know what they were worried about? They're 5. They were worried about getting enough homework done to get to 2 to 3 sports so they could come home and learn their instrument. You know, that's self-imposed perfection. That's really not what we want a 5-year-old to be worried about. A 5-year-old needs to worry about how to kick the ball, how to play, how to blow bubbles in the wind, and how to chase butterflies. But we've taught them on television and Shark Tank Junior and all the things we teach them that you have to produce now, and you have to produce at a high level. And my little 5-year-old girls were saying, Miss Sweetie, you do so much. How do we do more? Because we're just in kindergarten. We're wasting our time. Could you imagine a 5-year-old putting that kind of pressure on themselves? I said, that's it. We've got to go find the mud puddles. They need to play. And, you know, we all need to play. One of the ways that I have on my desk right now is I have a truth-telling thing. And the truth-telling thing is a cute little pad. It says module. And every time I play, whether it's for 2 minutes or for 20 minutes or for 40 minutes, it's got to be written down on that day, today. In fact, when I'm traveling, I have these really cute little lists. And this list is supposed to be full at the end of the week. You see it's kind of empty today? That's the problem. Ashley's going to have to tell me what to do because we haven't played yet this week. And she's one of the people I count on to remind me, we're playing today, and we figure out 5-minute ways on the busy weeks. What do you do to play, Ashley?
I am in a position now where my life is like a liquid mesh of DNA, and it hasn't yet solidified into that butterfly. So I'm creating a practice where I love what I do so much that it's play. When I'm teaching book arts and when I'm encouraging someone to create that says, I only draw stick figures, I said, that's how it all begins. And I mean, that's what I'm developing. So I think nothing is concrete for me. It's still an abstraction, modularized. Absolutely.
That's me.
Um,
That's me. Put one for me too.
but I love what I'm owning, and that is artistic expression on my own account, as well as bringing out inspired artistic expression from other people. So that's play.
I've got one on my list now. I play.
Right on. That's how it starts.
I'm here to tell you that Ashley Alico and I play a lot together when we have projects. We have a lot of deadline projects that are just crazy hard. I mean, sometimes it's really crazy hard to do what we do because she's just a pro, and we do what's called flying while driving. And, you know, that kind of stuff, it requires fun. So we have things like sparkle gloves. I don't know if you can tell it. It sparkles.
Oh, it's pretty.
So when we're out on location having to create something for Brandon quickly, we may put on our sparkle gloves. We may have a hat with something fun on it. One of my early morning hats, I have to do early morning videos, and man, I have a hat. And Ashley will tell you that hair gets tucked up in there, that thing gets put on. Sarah has a pair of financial glasses. When she's frustrated with accounting and she's tired of dealing with all the systems, she puts on these silly muddy glasses. And she puts on this silly British accent, and it's just hilarious. But that's a way to play in the middle of the storm. My husband just brought me a monkey that's soft because I kept making my monkey dance on the computer, and when I make him dance, it was dinging my computer. So he bought me a soft monkey today so that when I'm talking to him and I'm having puppet time, I'm not killing the computer anymore. So how is it that you play, Dr. Edith? I know you're a big creator, and you do all kinds of magic and fun things.
Oh, yes. It's, for me, I love being with the grandchildren and having that excuse to be either we're playing Lego blocks and building. Now, these are two young girls right at the moment that are close to me and my two granddaughters. And so we're either being engineers and building Lego blocks, and who knows what I'm going to discover, or we're playing dress-ups and we're fairy princesses at the same time. So it's just fun to be able to mix and do those things. Well, I have my own dress-up wardrobe, too. So I have my wizard costumes, and I have my mini masks that I've actually made, or my son's made. And then I also, if I'm looking for an answer, you know, we're so verbal and cognitive. Okay, it's time to get an answer, and it's a gut feeling. It's that deep, it's that level feeling. Well, then I go to mandalas, and that's where using black paper and white pencils to draw from the light. Just ways to be able to do it. I crochet too, and that's to keep my hands busy in rhythm. But if I want to express, you know, I try the Zentangle, I try dance, I try whatever, and in those cases, I'm looking for fun, adventure, something new and different, and I'm not looking for perfectionism or even developing a skill. I'm just out there to give it a try. It's a new adventure, something new for today.
I love that. I have another question for you, if you wouldn't mind, because it's one that we hear all the time with my gifted middle schoolers and high schoolers, and between us girls, I deal with this one more in person with adults than any other group. And that is, when you're in a boardroom, when you're a member of a PTA, when you're in front of people that matter, and you can't just like create a physical distance or margin, how do you create an emotional margin when things are not going well so that you do not act out and that they do not get your goat? Because gifted people very often are assumed that we do it easily, or that it just comes naturally to us even though we put in 20 hours to do something. And there's a need for emotional margin sometimes when people make really ignorant assumptions. Can you help us with that, Dr. Edith?
Well, I would encourage people, first of all, if you're wanting to take in the information of the meeting, actually being able to doodle, being able to write the notes and things like that serves a couple of purposes. One, you are taking in the information, you are focusing on it, but at the same time, you're distracting your attention so the emotional response to the person that's talking becomes detached. And not only that, it helps you keep your hands busy, your eyes are on your paper, and as Ashley was saying, then they're not focusing on you because you're studious and you're working away. And so you made that visual disconnect too by having your eyes focused on your paper. I've even done as much as taken crocheting in because I know I'm going into a meeting where there's going to be a lot of controversy, and so I'll take my crocheting in. So again, I've got 2 levels of attention, and it allows me and gives me greater time to think because I am focusing on that next pattern or whatever, but it gives you, I understand from conversations that people will tap their feet or do things like that too. The most important thing is to breathe, put up a natural cocoon, and that's one of the things I try to teach too, is to people to put up that safe barrier and boundary around them so that you have professional detachment, so that you can then learn and practice not being emotionally hooked when people are saying a difference of opinion, and recognizing communication skills so that you can have that professional detachment. It's really important to develop that, and especially for us that are highly sensitive, highly emotional, and quick to think and want to respond to yesterday.
Absolutely.
That's
You know,
great.
one of my favorite techniques that one of the gentlemen I work with taught me is when someone says something so outlandish to you that you just want to kill, you know, the kill frequency comes in place. What do you mean? And instead of responding that way, to sit back in yourself, and he leans back 15 degrees is the way he says it, lean your body back 15 degrees and say, in the quietest voice you can come up with, could you tell me what you mean? And then just be quiet and make them re-explain their position. Because so often people say things with an assumption in mind. And when you hear their thinking out loud as they explain what they meant, you can realize what the wrong assumption was, and you can more readily correct and educate what the correct position you're coming from is. And then there's dialogue. And dialogue is so valuable that you could go into fixing or answering or correcting before you create margin to understand why that hits you so emotionally. Boy, are you putting kindling on a gasoline fire, because you're going to respond probably dead on accurate to what they said, and when you say it, it's going to feel like they went for the jugular, and it's going to accelerate negative things happening. How many of you have been in a committee meeting where you could see the outcome, but they could not hear your communication, and it just suddenly took a turn for the worse? How many have had that experience? Oh, yes. That happens often because we can kind of perceive what's coming down the pike. But you know what? It doesn't help to know that if you can't get the whole group there to the same page. And that requires sometimes being very patient while they go through several more steps to assume what's going to happen. You know, I taught children for a long time, and one of the things I can tell you is that by 9 o'clock on a field trip, they're hungry. And by 2 minutes after you pull out of the bus station, they need a restroom. It's predictable. We don't have to think about it. It's going to happen every time I take a group of kids to the zoo. So there's some safety things that I build in margin to keep things from going south on us. We stop and have a restroom break before we get on the bus. We make sure that when we plan for a snack that we can have on the bus. So we know that as soon as we get there to the zoo, we don't want to spend an hour eating lunch if we only have an hour to be there. So you make plans for margin so that when it's time to perform, you're not in some other place, not able to handle what's going on. Same is true for rest. Personally, I have a need to sleep about 6 hours at a time. If I need 10 to stay healthy, then I'm going to have to sleep 6 at night, and then I'm going to need a nap at least once or twice a week. Really good ones, or I'll be sick. Some of you need 12 hours of sleep, and you've gotten so accustomed to 6 hours sleep that you're staying sick all the time. That's an indicator your body's not resting enough, and you might need more margin. Personally, I needed silence today. Kristen was with me on a project, and you know, they were having fun and playing and doing all kinds of dingling stuff, and we had a blast.
We did.
But there was a
We
time
did.
when I said, I need the TV off and I need the singing to stop because we have been at this for 5 hours and I need the solitude of thinking through what else has to be finished before we call it a day. And you know, honoring yourself that way, whether it's playing music in the background softly or whether it's needing some high energy music to kind of interrupt your needs, or whether you're like me and you need silence for a while, that creates margin for you emotionally too. What are the things you need to create soft and ease in your life, Dr. Edith?
In my life, I have to have some alone time, but at the same time, then I have to be able to connect with people. And when I connect with people, I mean not only family and coworkers and friends of all abilities. So it has required me to learn and develop certain skills too to be able to communicate and relate and recognize what my abilities are and where my tendencies are so that I can include them, because by including them and becoming part with them, then there's joy there too, and that connection is really important. On the other hand, what else do I need? I need my exercise. I need some movement. I need some sunshine. I need my music. I need movement even in the form of dance as well as walks. I need to be able to stop periodically and just take a picture because it caught my idea. I'm not into photography, or I'm not talented as a photographer necessarily, but there's sometimes I just need to capture that moment. So these new smartphones have come in real handy to be able to say, hey, this moment's important to me, and that's beautiful, whether it's the ant calling across or whatever.
I agree. The smartphones for me have, because I have a visual issue and I don't see very well on a lot of applications that would be professional level. But my smartphone allows me to be what I call the voyeur photographer, where I can use it, I can adjust it, I can see things up close with it, I can magnify things, I can play musical games, I can write music on my phone. You know, I can do fun things that make it work. Girls, we are already out of time. Can you believe it? We've already spent our 42 minutes on this. We are the Women of Dare Whimsy, a community for gifted and creative women to gather hearts of all ages, 5 to 95. In fact, if you're 105, we'll let you come too. We just know that you want to be the singer and we want you to be the girl. We're a place where you come to release your fears, to restore your belief in yourself, to relax and become all the wonderful things you are as a gifted, creative person, and to be in a community where other people get what it's like to be gifted. We hope you'll join us on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. and 9 p.m. for a hangout like this. Each week there is a topic chat. Tonight it was on margins. And tomorrow at darewhimsy.com, you'll read each one of our morning chat and our evening chat's authors put about a paragraph out there of their best tip for how to create margin in their life. You know what? If you find someone you resonate with, that you really relate to, there's a button right past their name to click and follow them home to their blog. I know that Dr. Edith has fantastic free seminars and paid seminars that you can learn more about being missing in action as a multi-able person. I'm here to tell you that her website, howtoinlife.com, is a resource not only for me, but for the teachers I work with, for my family members, and every single client I work with. That's required reading in the classes I do with them as a strategist. So I know you'll enjoy her. Kristen Schmidt, who's to my right, to your area, she's visiting Arkansas this week. We're both visiting Arkansas. She's the author of Bring Pretty Back. She not only writes about how to do small things, specific things to bring pretty back into your life, but if you read bringprettyback.com, you will find that there are all kinds of activities and events and courses, not to mention a book and fun t-shirts that you can find for her, that she reminds you with tactile things you can touch to take time to play, to take time to make your life pretty. And then there's our dear Ashley. Ashley is an artist extraordinaire. She is on my personal team at She's So There. She's on our team farm at Chaffee Creek. And let me tell you, you guys are going to know her at Dare Whimsy because she is designing bags and printed products and posters and t-shirts. I can't tell you how big our Dropbox folder is anymore because we have an idea farm that's actualizing in Ashley's capable hands. Those of you that are lucky enough to be in Hemet, California, there are classes in her local area. You can sign up and get to play in person. She is amazing. Whether she's at a Hobby Lobby or whether she's at the community center, she teaches 1-hour classes a week to 6-hour classes in a day. And I have a secret. She also does internet classes. So be looking at Dare Whimsy gatherings because that's where we announce every class that's available to you. Some of them are free, some of them are low cost, some of them are no cost. Melissa Dinwiddie couldn't be here tonight, but she's also joining us at Dare Whimsy, and she teaches creatives how to create again. And I hope you'll sign up for her free course as well as her 3-month class on how to do creative and fun things in your life. This has been Sweetie Berry. I'm so glad you're with us tonight. Ladies, I'd love for you to share just one more quick tip before we close it down. What is your best advice about margin and trying to learn how to do that? What would you tell people? Ashley, I'm going to pick you first. Give us one quick sentence on why margin matters and why to keep trying for it.
Margin matters, and the only way you can grasp what matters to you is through being really quiet. And it takes a while to become quiet. And silence. It's a surrender to your higher wisdom. And that's the one thing that's probably my saving grace, is being quiet.
You're doing such a good job of taking care of yourself. I'm proud of the effort. I've watched you grow in that area, and it has been good. Dr. Edith,
Go ahead.
tell us why that margin is so important, and what's your best tip?
Margin, for me, is important in order to maintain a balance, to revisit that point of harmony. Balance and harmony is not static, it's dynamic. And so being able to know what it feels like and be able to return to it when needed. So being quiet, as Ashley was saying, being in nature so you're connected, making sure your breathing's there so that you know how to return to that point of balance, because life is dynamic and always going. So I want to be able to revisit that point at will, at a time, whenever and wherever I need it.
And I'm Kristen Schmidt, and I would say that the one thing that I have really struggled with, because I'm almost addicted to it, is I have now turned my phone off and I've left my phone outside of my bedroom, because I can really get caught up in sitting on the phone late at night, and really, so I don't get quiet and wake up in the middle of the night, I'll check my phone. So, and one night that when I first started this, I left it in the car. Didn't even bring it in the house because it was too easy to grab it, check it. You're going to check it really quick. Well, you know how that goes, and it's always by me. So the no phone in the bedroom has really been a huge saving grace for me, because it forced me to kind of shut everything off.
Oh, that's so important, Kristen.
Yes.
I found out when I had boys in high school in my family that they were receiving 3,000 texts during a 5-day period, and they were feeling so pressured to respond to everybody all the time. And so we made a rule in our house that the children, that meant, all of us 5 to 55, we all leave our phones from 6 o'clock in the evening until 8 o'clock in the evening, because that was family time. And then we had a quick phone break so they could check in with everybody for 30 minutes. But at the end of that 30 minutes, the phone stayed in the kitchen, and everybody went to their room without them. And that included the adults in our house, because we found that family time needed to be family time, and we turned off electronics. And, even iPads and computers go off between 6 and 9 o'clock at our house. And then the adults leave off everything till they get up for work. For me personally, one of the biggest reasons that I couldn't manage at all margin for a while is I was stymied on how do I handle calendaring when I can't even say what I do in an hour because there's too many things to write down in one of those squares. So I started a system last year that was so easy and so good for me. I take a highlighter. You know, I take a highlighter with my favorite colors. In fact, I'll show you the colors. I took a highlighter with my favorite colors, and I pulled them out, and now I take a block of time. And I say, okay, this blue, I'm going to work 14 hours this week, and I highlight where 14 hours is. And I don't write down everything I'm going to do in those 14 hours. That's a different process. But just knowing that that's where the work time is, that's all I do in that work time. I know that I will cheat me before I'll cheat anybody else. I'm very driven to be loyal to work. And so now I have a green light. And the green light is where I'm supposed to play. It's all morning Friday, and it's an hour and afternoon from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. That's my green light to play. It's already in the schedule. So when someone calls and says, can you do this? And it's 4 o'clock, I can say, I'm sorry, I have an appointment with myself. I don't even have to tell them it's myself. I just have an appointment. The appointment is to go play. And so I use green for that. I have a yellow one. Ashley knows what this one's for. It's my Ashley time. We do creating together on Saturdays, every other Saturday, whenever the schedule allows. And I have that scheduled. It's a block of time. I don't even know what she's going to teach me that time. It may be card making. It may be how to use something. It may be whatever. I don't have to write down all the details. I just need to know it's playtime, and hit Google Hangout, and there she is, and there we go. Then I have a red one. You know what that's for? Hard stop. It's a hard stop. That's when I've got to leave the office. I've got to go to bed. I've got to leave the office and cook dinner as a wife. It's a hard stop for me. I don't even color it in. It's just a hard line, because in my head, that excuses me from saying, oh, I can just work another hour. I'll be there in an hour. I'll stop playing. I'll stop working so I can play 2 hours from now. And pretty soon I don't have any playtime. That hard stop helps me remember that I matter as much as any client, and I matter as much for me as I do for my family, because if I can't take care of me, guess what? My business, my family, everything suffers. So having those color pens for me personally, really important. Getting it down to how it matches in my time, that's another step. But the first step was identifying when is work time, when is play time, when is rest time, and when is leave the house time. And when I got that down, my life improved probably 40% in 1 week. Just 1 week. So I would love for you guys to dare whimsy this week, to really think about, where is margin in your life? When do you relax? Where do you take time for solitude? How are you playing in your life? Where is the margin for fun and laughter and girlfriend time, time with your kids, time with your pets? Where is the margin to really stop and look at what your life is, and is it working for you? And where are the hard stop boundaries that truly help you have margin to slow down and change projects when you need to? Sometimes we have a hard time of that as a gifted girl, and I want you all to have permission to do what's best for your life. Not what's good, what's fun, but what makes your life worth living and better, so that you wake up excited to be you. I want you to help find the life you love this year, and margin is one of the continuing subjects we're going to talk about from time to time, because it's a step process. You got to identify it first, and after you've identified it, it'll take some awareness steps. So thank you tonight for being with us, ladies. I am always so privileged when you're at the table with me. We're going to meet again next Wednesday at 10 a.m. and 9 p.m. Our topic next week, you're going to love this. How do you communicate what matters to you to others? You know, how do you communicate what matters to you to others? And we're going to do a very fun project, since it'll be 2 weeks from Valentine's, that will actually actuate how we communicate to someone that they matter to you. I hope that tomorrow you'll join us at darewhimsy.com, and you'll go to our blog, and you will read each one of these 4 ladies' hints, as well as the 8 that were with us this morning, on how to create margin in your life. Thank you for coming, and thank you for honoring us with your presence. It's been just a pleasure to be your MC tonight. My name is Sweetie Berry, and I look forward to knowing you. Come visit me at sweetieland.com.